Hi. First of all, I'm going to do this vlog not really for everybody out there, but more so for me. My name is Christy. I am 51, going to be 52, and I suffer with what is known as mixed connective tissue disorder, or MCTD. Some of the things that come with it is it's like an umbrella, and you usually have 3 major autoimmune issues to qualify as a mixed connective tissue disorder recipient, I guess you could call me. One is lupus, which you can kind of see on my face right now. I have these red blotchinesses right here and here, and there's a little bit of color discoloration. And then also, what you just saw possibly on my hands, is Raynaud's. And then also I have several other smaller ones on top of pleurisy and fibromyalgia. There's just quite a bit there going on. I'm just a hot mess, let's put it like that. I was diagnosed after giving birth to my daughter. I did have signs that were there prior, after I miscarried with my first child. And I would have strange things that would happen, like the rashes. But for me, mine usually start from the feet on up before it hits my face. My face is actually the last place that it will affect me. And usually if it is my face, it's because I have been flaring for quite a while. Anyways, I was 18 at the time of the miscarriage. And after that, I started having some strange things happening. I would have parts of my body that would go numb. I was having swelling that would happen in various places. I would have times when I would wake up and my eyes would be completely swollen. And they would look really puffy, and I wasn't even sure what was going on. And with all this, I kept going to the doctor. But the problem was, as most people with my disease will tell you, by the time I could get in to see a doctor, a lot of it would be not there anymore. And this is way back in the day where we didn't have video blogs or ways to actually videotape things that you saw that were going on with you. The closest thing that I could do was I would take pictures and, of course, wait for them to be developed because, again, this is way back. And I would bring them to the doctor and say, this is what I was having. And do you see my neck here? Or do you see how my face is swollen here? Or do you see this rash? And what is going on? I was told it was related to stress, and it was basically mental. Now, they were right about one part, is it is related to stress. Stress is an activator, and most people with autoimmune will tell you stress is. And then the doctor will tell you that you need to try to be as stress-free as possible, which having this illness itself is stressful. So it's kind of hard to avoid that. So this was back in probably about 86 when this happened. And like I said, I went for several years. My daughter was born in 1997. And during my pregnancy with her, I just found myself even escalating more with my progression of symptoms that were happening. So much so that in my 4th month, I had started bleeding and having really traumatic pains and went to the doctor. When they did the ultrasound on me, they had concerns. And the next thing I knew, I was being rushed to the hospital. At this point in time, I was informed that one of my babies there was hardly any heartbeat at all. And the other one, which was when I found out I was having twins, fraternal, it was stronger, but it was still going below what they felt was a viable heartbeat. At that time, they recommended for me to abort. Not that I have a problem with anyone who wants to make that decision. Let me put that out there. But for me, it was a little differently. I have been told for a long time I probably couldn't have children. So being told that I should abort was kind of not an option for me. I really felt like whatever God gave me, that's what he gives me. So I decided, along with my husband, that we would try to see if we could at least save one of them. We weren't sure if possibly both could be saved, but we went for at least one. At that time, we found out that there was an issue with her heart, and it was probably some type of congenital heart issue with the one that was more viable. In 97, like I said, I gave birth to 2 children, and one was stillborn, and the other was my beautiful daughter. But yes, she did have congenital heart disease. She had what they call a V2 block, which made one of her ventricles, the second ventricle, in her heart, because you have 4 parts, wasn't pumping properly. So it would block and start, and they didn't know at the time if it could heal itself or not. So we had those issues. But she was strong, and she fought through it, and she ended up getting a pacemaker. But during that time, when all that was happening, all my symptoms were progressing. Of course, I'm sure a lot of it had to deal with the fact that I was stressed more than probably the average mother would be. So finally, luckily for me, I went in to see a doctor who was female, and she kind of listened to me more so than my normal doctor, who happened to be out sick that day. And this female doctor said, there's a lot of signs that kind of make me want to say, let's do a blood test, because I think you may have lupus. And so we did a really quick A&E blood test, and it came back positive. And she was like, we need to have a conversation, and I need to inform you that you have lupus. Well, at that point in time, that was back in 2001, I was kind of dumbfounded. What is lupus? I'd never heard of it. It wasn't something that was in my family. And I just knew I didn't feel good, and I was tired, and I was getting sick all the time. And growing up, I was that child that, I never got sick. If I did, it was something major. It was measles, chickenpox, one of those things. So after that, my world kind of turned upside down. Then it was, well, let's figure out how I can live with this and make the most of my life. I have 2 small children, and I need to live. So I progressed, working, doing what I could, but I was having more pleurisy, a lot more issues. I was going numb. I was gaining a lot of weight. Couldn't figure out what was going on. It was like I had no thyroid that was working. And I was just all over the map. Finally, I had a bout where I was basically passing out at work and was taken in by my boss and said, I think you really need to think about just going on disability, because you're becoming a hazard here. I don't want you to get hurt one of these times when you pass out or whatever goes on. So I filed for disability. That's like a whole nother discussion. Long story short, I had to go to a doctor, and anybody who's in my situation knows exactly how fun that is, and get a paperwork showing everything that's wrong with me. When I got that back, it was like 2.5 pages long of everything wrong with me. And up until that point, I don't even think I realized I'd been dealing with it for so long that being sick was my new normal. I have always been the kind of person that you see a wall and you figure out how to get through it, how to get around it, how to get over it. And you get on with your life. Sorry about that. So anyways, I realized that I had to make some changes in my life. I did do that. I would lose weight and something else would attack me. Through the years, I've had Bell's palsy. I've had blood issues. I ended up with uterine cancer. Just every time I would get to a point where I would be healthy, something new would find a way of attacking me. And then, of course, as symptoms arrived and new diseases came into my world, my title would change. I first went from just lupus and then to UCTD, which means undifferentiated connective tissue disorder, which means that I have certain signs of different illnesses underneath my umbrella, but none of them are specific. They're just like, oh yes, you have sore muscles, but it may not be arthritis, or it may not be fibromyalgia, or it may not be one of these things because it's not quite bad enough or whatever, depending on what doctor I talk to. And then I would have to say probably about 2012, 13, it switched over to mixed connective tissue disorder. And that's kind of where I'm at today. I'm making a vlog because I want to do this for me as the disease progresses. And maybe something I say or do can help doctors to help somebody after me, and hopefully not one of my children. It's probably the biggest thing I hope is they never have to deal with, or any of my loved ones that may come after them. I think looking back at it now, because it's such a new disease that's out there, I think that maybe my grandmother on my mother's side may have had it and just was never diagnosed. So I don't know. There's not enough research out there to say whether it's genetic or not. So who's to say, right? Hopefully, too, it helps me to remind myself about how blessed I am, even on those bad days. Not gonna lie, probably most of my posts will be me in bed. That tends to be my life right now for the foreseeable future. The issues that I'm having lately are blurriness with my eyes, and my eyes are really dry, which is actually a fairly common issue. So my lips are dry, my eyes are dry. I don't have the skin that I used to have. And so I have the sunken eyes and the dark circle that is there no matter what I try to do. I'm not a makeup person, so I've never really done makeup. So that kind of screws me a little bit. Plus, I'm kind of, I'll admit, lazy. And luckily, unfortunately, until this disease hit me, I never had acne or anything, so I wasn't the kind of girl that had to wear makeup. So now I kind of am the person that has to try to figure out how to wear makeup. If you notice, my teeth look awfully straight, but my smile is weird. I had an issue with my Bell's palsy, and it did leave my face with some permanent damage. So my smile and everything shifted. Another thing that happens with people who have mixed connective tissue disorder, some of it because of the autoimmune issues that you have, and some of it has to deal with all the medicines that you take, you do end up, unfortunately, with the worst teeth in the world. And for me, I never had a cavity until I was sick. Then the next thing I knew, my teeth were just breaking and just crumbling and turning to pain, gums bleeding, no matter how many times I brushed my teeth. It just was a constant battle. So bad that I went to a doctor at one time, a dentist, and showed him my teeth and was like, what's going on? He actually, at one point, suggested that I stop smoking or taking crack, which I then informed him, if I was taking anything like that, would I be this big? Last I checked, I'm not skinny, and for the most part, people who usually do drugs are thin, not big like me. So completely horrified by that time. I did end up with a good dentist who, fortunately for me, had a wife who had lupus and was kind of like, yeah, this is the norm. I know you're not going to find a lot of work on it, but it is. And I can go ahead and give you dentures, or we can do crowns and we can do bridges and we can go from there. So I did want to keep the teeth that were good, so I did go with bridges. But unfortunately, my body rejected these bridges and they popped out. And then about 2 years ago, after living a life with broken teeth and defective bridges and just dealing with the depression of watching your body slowly decay and break down before you, went ahead and did research, and I did get permanent dentures, which is basically where you have 4 rods on the top and 4 rods on the bottom. They take out all your teeth, and they take these rods and infuse them into the bone that's in your mouth. And now I have these, and you can see up here the gap. But I do say I think they turned out good. It's been 2 years, like I said, and I haven't really had any issues with them except for when I'm sick. And I did go with this type of denture because I had partial dentures, and the problem with that is when us fellow lupies, or recipients of this wonderful illness flare, our gums and everything flare. And there are points in the times where you can't even get your denture in your mouth. And you can't smile, you can't eat, you can't do a lot of things like everybody else does. And so that's another thing that lupus kind of took away from me for a while. My hair, I do a lot of things to try to keep my hair. I have it cut in layers so that it's not weighted down, because people with my illness, their hair tends to break a lot, and the weight of it will break it. And I don't exactly look great with short hair, especially with the face that I have, thanks to my medicine. If you'll notice that I have what's called a moon face. It's very round like the moon, and that is from it. And I don't normally have a round face. So that's another thing that happens. But you lose your hair. Your hair becomes really thin. And if I was a guy, I'd probably just shave my head and be bald, because bald is kind of sexy on a man, but not really sexy on me. I can't pull it off. I'm just not. I'm not there yet. Maybe one day I'll embrace it and I'll be like, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do it. But at the present moment, I'm not. I would kind of look like Uncle Fester with the sunken in eyes, especially. The other problems that you have is feet, hands, always cold, turning blue. I get the ringing in my ears, pains that shoot up from the Bell's palsy, and the issues that happen because I basically hear. I have a bunch of nerves that just never got back to normal after being hit with the Bell's palsy, which is why the smile is kind of what it is. I have issues with the rash. My rash, in particular, usually starts from my feet and moves upwards, like I said, which is why my face is the last place that it hits. I have dry mouth, too. I no longer produce any tears. Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. I don't cry as often. You get depression. Oh, I suffer from depression. It's hard. It's really hard. I am really fortunate to have the friends that I have and the family that I have. They usually don't let me dwell on it for too long. But it is also hard because I really try to maintain being positive and not focus on what I can't do and more on what I can. And sometimes that makes my family and loved ones forget that I'm ill. So when I am ill, it kind of like throws them. And also because I can't work, there is a part of me that tries to make up for it in other ways because I don't feel like I contribute fully as everybody else does. But then I try to look at the positive about it, that what I can do, I try to do. And maybe I can't be there physically, but maybe I can be there emotionally. Or to try to show my daughter and my son that whatever I have that's going on with me, I'm alive. And that's so much to celebrate right there. And I just try to focus on that. So, this is my first vlog, and I'm going to try to take on maybe one subject and talk about each of those subjects. But for now, this is just my intro and letting you know a little bit about me and the disease that I have. And I'm hoping this is going to help me be a little bit more accountable, because I do sometimes find myself getting lost in my disease and just living but not really living. Okay? So if you did watch this, I congratulate you through sitting through it all. And I hope you'll be come back to help me with my story. And if you have any comments or anything you want to ask me, if I see them in the comments, I'll try to answer them. And have a happy loopy life.